So you're new to gardening and you want to start a garden. There is a ton of information out there, and that's both bad and good. The good being, there's a ton of information out there. The bad being, a lot of it's conflicting, and at times there's so much of it, it can be overwhelming. So here's a bit of advice. No matter what, remember this, there are no absolutes. Your soil, your weather, your climate, everything is different, so there's a lot of variables to this, and gardeners that have been doing this for decades, they even still have failures. But here's what we're gonna do to get you off to a good start. There is a technique recently referred to as lasagna gardening, although I don't think it's all that new. For hundreds of years, people have been layering up different forms of organic material and then growing plants in it, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. What do we need to get going? We're gonna have some water, some newspaper, in my case, some leaf litter. You could use wheat straw, grass clippings, anything that you have that's free is great. Wheat straw may be the only thing you pay for. Some topsoil, compost, any kind of gardening soil, or even a potting mix will work great. And then finally, some mulch to finish this off with. So let's say this is your garden, our little box here. Now, it doesn't matter what scale you're doing this to, little tiny box or a great big giant yard. Remember though, the bigger you get, the more material you need, the more time you'll need, and the more labor it'll take. So ultimately, cost is really gonna come down to scale. Once we have our area all picked out, this couldn't be simpler. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our newspaper and lay that out. About 5 to 6 layers of newspaper should do the trick. Then we're gonna go ahead, in my case, use our leaf litter, but any of those materials you have, grass clippings or wheat straw, lay that on top of the paper, water it down. Then we're gonna add our layer of compost or topsoil or whatever gardening soil you have. We're gonna put that down, water that. Then ideally, you'd have another layer of leaf litter, wheat straw, any of those materials, another layer of compost, topsoil, gardening mix, you get the drift here, water that down, and at this stage, hopefully we're about 3 to 4 inches thick above the existing ground that's there. Then we can put our plants in there if we're ready to do that, or you can just mulch it over and wait and reserve it when you want to add your plants. So what have we done here? If you have bad soil, this is awesome because we're putting all these organic materials on top of the native soil. The original lawn or weeds that are there are all going to start to die. That'll create nitrogen in the soil. And now all the earthworms and all those good microorganisms will come up and start to aerate the soil, which will improve the native soil. And in the meantime, we're planting in the new stuff we just added, plenty of nutrients for them in the compost and all the different soil mixes that we have in there. So your plants are going to be ultra happy and healthy. So a couple of misconceptions before we go about this. Even if you do this technique, there is no such thing as a weed-free garden. You will sleep much easier at night before you start gardening if you accept this. If you garden, you will have weeds. Period. That's the way it goes. It's part of the process. Weed seeds are tiny, dust-like little things. They'll find a way into your garden. The second thing being, even if you don't have great success this first year, you're gonna learn, and the more you learn, the better it'll be in future years. And you can do everything right. We have no control over Mother Nature and the elements. Although, we do have control over vegetables once we grow them in the kitchen.